Welcome back to Africa. So this second session of ours will have a number of short presentations. So we will have, the program is on the screen as you see. So we have a number of 10-minute presentations from Latitude 59 about their plans towards Africa. Then we have Enterprise Estonia talking about their plans in Africa. Then we have an experience sharing from an African startup founder. That's a little bit longer, 20 minutes. Then we will have a 10-minute overview of Estonian Development Cooperation from Foreign Ministry as well. And then at the end we have also Estonian Environmental Investment Center programs towards Africa. So our first speaker is not in the room. But I have her slides, so maybe I can do it. Woohoo! So let me put it.
7 minutes.
Okay. See peaks, et see on viimane või? Okei, normaalne. Spoiler.
This is the first slide. I think you can hear me without...
I think it's for the recording. The microphone is, Annika, do you... it's here. If you could...
Yeah, sorry. Okay. Is it working? Yeah. All right. How can I start now? This after coffee break, everybody's like, I need more coffee, everything. But as Daniel has already said, Latitude 59 is going to Kenya. Woo! It is super exciting for us because, first of all, actually I want to know, raise your hand if you know what is Latitude 59. Do we even have anybody? No, yeah, that's great. Okay, great. So we all know what's Latitude 59, and we actually have come really far with 2 years, because when we started 2 years ago, even though like Latitude is like 12 years old now, but 2 years ago we started with new team, and it was kind of like, you know, COVID had ruined a lot of our situation, and we had to kind of build it up again. So now with 2 years we have come a long way. We have had 3,000 people. We are sold out both years. We had 67 countries represented. So many investors, like 100 funds from all around the world, startups and so on. So our kind of thought was that, okay, so Latitude 59 is a gatherer of a community in Estonia that brings together this global village. This is where the thought came, like, okay, so how can we build this global village a little bit bigger? And what can we do for that? And then came the SDEV application form up, and then we applied because we were thinking that, okay, maybe we should start from Kenya. And now we are going, and it's happening. It's happening on the 6th of December. We have a place called Sarit Expo Center. Haven't been there yet, so we don't, is it good? Okay, great, nice. And there is page latitude59.ee/Kenya, where you can get more information. But the main goal is to unite the Kenya and actually East Africa startup ecosystems together with Estonia, Baltics, Nordics, whoever we can get with us actually to come there and put together like a really cool one-day event from, you know, morning till the evening. Obviously, hopefully, the after party. That is always like a really big part. Some of the topics that we want to access and address are agri-tech and food, sustainability and climate. Fintech, like we heard from the previous presenter, is definitely one of the biggest areas there that we can get a lot of information in. Education, supporting growth and innovation, and actually just talking about like how our communities can connect more, and just the networking part. We will have the pitch competition for startups. We are doing it together with the Startup Wise Guys, and we already have a lot of partners joining us. Not actually a lot of, we still need more partners, but those are our partners so far. As Anthony said, Tech Safari is really the best newsletter that I have seen when you want to know what's happening in the African ecosystem. So we have the main guy, Caleb, from there coming and helping us to put together also the program, and also probably hosting the whole day, which is really, really cool. Startup Wise Guys, as I said, going to help us to do the pitch competition, which is definitely a bit smaller than in Estonia. We don't have 1.25 million euros to give this time, but hopefully we will have Startup Wise Guys getting the winner to their accelerator and then giving some perks from the partners and so on. And who else? Well, we're organizing it together with Admirals. This is our main partner, and Estev, obviously. Milton Events helps us to organize it. And Bolt is coming as well. So I'm definitely looking for more partners on the ground. Kaspar will already go there. Actually, Kaspar, Dolores, and Kadri from my team are also here, and together with them organizing it. And Kaspar will go there already like in the middle of October, I think, right? So he will get to talk to a lot of other people there. So yeah, to kind of summarize this whole thing, we are going to Kenya. We really want to connect together, to connect with the African ecosystem, East Africa. And actually around that event, we also want to build like a stronger community, in that sense that it's not only just one-time event, but it's going to be like a continuous thing, hopefully, in the future. Latitude is very ambitious at the moment. I hope it's gonna continue in our team, but there are other countries in the pipeline as well. Right now, we just hope that this is a success. On the 6th of December, it's actually already in 68 days. So, yeah, this is like what I always like to say, you know, like remind the days how many we have left. But yeah, I hope most of you can join. You're all super welcome. And if you know anybody we should connect with and contact and lead them to us, my name is Liisi Org, and I think I don't have my contacts here, but you will get them from Daniel, right? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Liisi. So we are continuing with a presentation from Enterprise Estonia, trying to get the correct title, Regional Director Distant Export Markets. Piret Sauter. Panen esitluse ka.
Hi, everybody. Glad to see so many people here who are interested to do business in Africa. That's really wonderful. Just a short explanation maybe from my side about Enterprise Estonia. I see a lot of people here from Estonian companies. Enterprise Estonia, in Estonia, a lot of people, they know it more like EAS or EAS as pronounced in an Estonian way. This was the previous name of the organization, or EAS as it's called right now today. But about Africa and Kenya, well, just to start and explain about our business a bit more, what is the role of our company? What is the role of our organization? It is actually to support Estonian companies to do business in different countries worldwide. It means that we have actually 18 different advisors, trade advisors globally. And Kenya in Africa, it's the newest market for us right now. We opened Kenya last year in October. And why Kenya? It's always a question why we open a new market with our new representative there. Actually, interest from the company side, this is really essential here, to have interest from company side, but also from wider picture. We must make sure that the area we start to support Estonian companies to do their business, it's really attractive in long term. But also as about Kenya itself, I think it's considered like financial and logistic hub in eastern part of Africa. And besides that, growing infrastructure, also good economy point of view, that a lot of young people there, and also active business in many different areas that could be interesting for Estonian companies. So about a year ago, Joel Carubio joined us as our trade advisor in Kenya. About Joel, Joel Carubio with very good business background, a very experienced person in Kenya, a local person, and with a wide network, both in enterprises, companies locally there in Kenya, but also with very wide network among governmental institutions in Kenya. I would like to bring you also some numbers, because as you understand from Enterprise Estonia side, we are quite like at the starting point with just 1 year of history behind. But what does numbers say? So our services for Kenya as a target market have been used by 40 different companies and institutions during this 1 year. We have provided 24 times marketing activities, 16 export consultations, 6 B2B services, 5 Estonian partners have been introduced to local companies, 3 consultations, and 2 export partner searches. So this has been our first year in numbers. And in spring of 2023, we organized an IT sector business mission to Kenya, attending by 8 companies. So it has been quite a busy year, and we are happy to say that the interest has been really there from Estonian side. So talking about the main activities have been actually from information and communication side, counted as 19 altogether. I come back to that a bit later on to explain it more. Not to go into too much into theory, I would like to bring out the most common questions that we have received from Estonian companies during this first year. So as explained by our trade advisor in Kenya, you can see that the questions are quite, I wouldn't say simple ones, but they are really important ones for starting companies. And this is sometimes something that you cannot really Google, but you need really expert advice in these questions. I think that probably some of these questions may also sound pretty familiar for you when starting a business, especially in some faraway country. Also about challenges that we have heard from Estonian companies. Again, it's very much about understanding the customer, understanding the market, understanding the landscape. Also, very important here, Kenya is much bigger from population that we imagine at the first step. So population of 55 million people, it's something that we need to consider when starting a business there, if we have enough power to do it. And also opportunities take time to mature more than sometimes it's thought at the initial stage. Here a bit more of theory about service roadmap that's good to share with you, that first stage preparation is really important when you go to export markets globally, to gather as much information as possible about the target market. The same about Kenya. Take time to do your homework. The preparation stage, it's very much about homework, and believe me, our expert advisor, Joel Carubio, can definitely support you here with expert advice. Market entry is the next step, and again, we are here with you both for market entry but also for expansion. Why is two different stages? Market entry is something quicker than you can do. Expansion, especially if you look at joint stands at fairs and VIP visits, are normally something that you need to prepare longer in advance. What we have learned from the first year, and also looking at the landscape in Kenya, there are three main focus centers, focus points that we have centered. So information and communications technology center. Why you have picked it out is definitely that Kenya is a regional leader for different digital services, banking services, and also many other like mobile money transfer services, value-added digital services, and so on. The next focus point for us, it's education. I mean here that it's digital education and digital learning, and Kenyan government supports supports this part of activities from their side quite significantly. Health tech is the third focus that we would like to bring out here for the next coming activities. Explaining about how we plan our work. Here, really a recommendation from my side that I have named here visit.ee. It means visits.ee. Estonian companies are very much, let's say, recommended to come and visit this website and also register and list your company there. What does it mean? It means that while listed here, you can have all your information that is really important for you from this one source. Here are two things, two activities, events that we plan to have in 2023. About the next year, coming to these focus sectors that we have listed, ICT sector, health sector, and education, we have prepared a preliminary plan how we are going to continue with our support to Estonian companies, Estonian startups. You can have a look at it, read it through, and find if there is something that's interesting for you, and you can come back to us and give your comments. Now for those companies, those startups who haven't been listed here, please communicate. If you have some other interests, if you see possibilities, if you see potential, come to us and we will discuss it with you, because this is something that's not written into stone. We can still make changes here, we can make additions here, and ready to discuss and be a partner for you also in these discussions. Advice to Estonian startup companies. This is again based on our practice, 1 year practice, really there in the market. What we have learned that the Kenyan ecosystem is complicated and sometimes it's hard to navigate. So it's really important to make sure that you understand the business environment. The Kenyan consumer is very educated, actually, very educated and understand their needs. So they are delighted, they can be very much delighted with the product, but they can also sometimes change their mind very quickly and turn away from the business. And the third point, what is also very important here, it's just to keep patience. So thank you very much, and you were very much welcome to come to us and ask advice what we can do for you in Kenya.
Thank you, Piret. So we are moving on with the program. Next we have an African startup founder, Ibrahim Bashir, who is coming and sharing his experience, and also, while he is now based in Tallinn, also why his company is dealing with African market and why he thinks others may want to do it as well. So he has 20 minutes, and if possible, it can be somehow interactive as well. So I hope it will be very useful. While I open your slides, you can already say hello.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet all of you. But I will start with asking a very random question. Show by hands, how many of you have been or have traveled to Africa? Apart from Daniel. Oh, good. I can say good. No, the Africans are not raising up their hands. Anyways, so nice to meet all of you. And 20 minutes, yes. Okay, so I think I'm here to share about my experience as an African founder, advising you on probably how to start up a business or anything in Africa. So I'll tell you a bit about my story, but more importantly, I want you guys to interact with me by asking questions, and no matter how foolish you think the question is, I think those are actually the best questions, especially when it comes to Africa. So I'll move forward and tell you a bit about myself. I have over 20 years of experience in different sectors. One of the interesting things about being a Nigerian is that you don't get to do just one thing. You get to do a lot of things. And in those years, I have worked in the telecom space, technology, fast-moving consumer goods. I've built different companies for different high net worth individuals. Some of the companies I worked with in telecoms, one of them, Suburban, was carrying 75% of Nigeria's internet traffic at one point in time, and was doing more than $40 million a year in revenue. The other companies I worked with are in the oil and gas space, and also I started Delali. And the reason why I started Delali was that I had a problem when I started my first business. I couldn't afford an accountant, and I had my first investor. I needed to account for everything. I didn't even know what to do. So I ended up having to learn a bit about finance, and started reporting. And I noticed that this was a problem that was common among small businesses. So did I start the idea? Did I start the business? No. I went to work for a big company that had a lot of money, and they had the same problem. And when I saw that owner-managed businesses had that challenge, I decided to sort of start Delali. Today, we have built a product, and we have roughly about, wrong way, this way, yeah. Roughly, we have about 20,000 users on our platform. It started as a freemium product, mostly focused in one country, Nigeria. We also have users in Kenya, UK, the US, Ghana, and a few other countries. So that's a bit about Delali, and we started Delali here in Estonia. So that's another story, but I'll talk about it maybe after. Now, Now, I'll start with, everybody has spoken about how large Africa is, and I won't want to dwell too much on this, but I'll go to this map. You see that green border there inside Kenya? That's Estonia. That's how big Estonia is in the context of Africa. I think it's very important to understand the sheer size of the continent, and that's where you begin to understand the infrastructural challenges. You know, Africa is much, much larger than Europe, so you can imagine how it is to build a road across multiple terrains that are very, very different, right? And I'm going to start with, how we started. I've talked about Delali and everything that we do. The whole idea of it is a very simple solution for businesses to digitally capture their financial records. Majority of businesses in Africa, more than 90% of businesses, do their record keeping on paper. And more than 95% of small businesses do not have access to finance. The key reason why they can't access finance is because banks say they have inadequate financial data. So how do we start this process? We can't come and build a Zolo, which is quite advanced in the context of a small business in Africa. We have to come down a little lower. How? By starting just the small process of digitizing that. Then that way people get educated, they start to understand their numbers, and eventually they will be able to get loans. Now, is this going to happen overnight? No. It's going to take 5 to 7 years for us to achieve this. But we have to start from there, the foundation. You guys saw this map in Anthony's presentation, and this is the number one tip I'll give to you. Start small. If you're entering the African market, it's good to think about it as, yes, it's one large market, 1.3 billion people, and so many numbers. But one of the biggest lessons for us when we started was in fact, when we were very ambitious, okay, well, this idea will start, people have this problem, and it's going to work. And after year 1, we'll be spread all over West Africa, right? That didn't happen. We started in Nigeria. Nigeria has a population of, we don't know the exact number, but we estimate, right, to say we're about 210 million people. That's half of Europe, right? And in Nigeria, like Anthony had said earlier, by the time you go to Lagos, moving from the coast down up north is like going from the rainforest to the desert. Cultures, behaviors, languages, mannerisms are completely different. But we're very, very lucky when it comes to doing business, is that they speak one language for business, and that's English. So if you look at the African market by region, you find out that there are certain common languages spoken. English, French, Portuguese, I think a bit of Spanish, maybe 2 countries speak Spanish. Then there are the local languages that are common across regions. So in East Africa, Swahili. In West Africa, it's a bit controversial, so I'll say English, French, the local languages, probably Hausa, Yoruba, and a few other languages. In North Africa, more of the Arabic. And in Southern Africa, I'll say English, generally speaking. So it's very easy for you to sort of pick one market, understand it, and focus on it. So for us, we decided to start with, yes, Nigeria. It has a strong small business presence, but more importantly, I am from Nigeria. I'm Nigerian, and I understand the local behavior and nuances of the market. Interestingly, we tried other markets. Guess what? We failed. Because we didn't understand, as much as we think we understand each other, it's very, very diverse. So the closest market to us in Nigeria is probably Ghana, right? Same British colonial system, English law, education is almost the same, and things like that. So we have a lot, and regionally, we're just next to each other, right? So it's very, very easy for us to enter that market compared to going to a Kenya, for example, which is completely different, although we all speak English, you know? But the culture, weather, everything is completely different. So it's very, very important that when starting in a market, especially as an Estonian entity, trying to enter the African market, is to understand the market, focus on one, and focus on succeeding at that one before thinking of expanding, you know? And again, depending on the market, like they have talked about the big four, there are other smaller markets, and it's not just technology. There are a lot of challenges, and my cousin used to tell me that wherever there's a challenge or wherever there's chaos, there lies the largest opportunity. So you think of it this way: the simplest of problems, right? You can actually have a solution to it. Electricity is a problem. Infrastructure is a problem. Education is a problem. We can sit down and talk about the problems, or rather look at it from the opportunity perspective. How can we jump into this opportunity? Everyone has talked about localization, and you are absolutely right. It's very, very difficult, you know, entering the market, and that is why you need local understanding, right? Yes, you should go, get on ground, understand the process. But more importantly, you need to find someone who is like you, who understands the market, that will allow you and tell you this is how things are done. Daniel said something this morning. I was just chuckling. Good morning. I said good morning. You know, it's a thing. Over here in Estonia, I'll say our engagement is different. But over there, people are more vocal. So you see someone come and he's shouting and making a lot of noise, and as an Estonian, you're offended. You're like, oh my God, why is this person talking like this? Why is this person screaming? Or when you see someone on the phone, hello, blah, 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 and they're just shouting and shouting, it's like this person is screaming. But it's just, for us, that's normal. If the person is quiet, everybody will be concerned. It's like, why is that person so quiet? So when you go somewhere and talking very calmly, they're like, okay, there's something wrong, you know, and they start to ask a lot of questions. So localization is very, very important, that even when you're building your product, you can't come and say, okay, because it's worked here in Europe, it's going to work in Africa. It doesn't work that way. You have to understand, and how people consume or use your product is completely different. So for example, we went through an accelerator, or went through several accelerators, and we were talking about, what is it now? That, okay, in this market, this is how it worked. Your SaaS product is going to work in the African market, and on and on and on. We got there, and it was completely different. What people even wanted, as the key thing that people wanted, was that was more important to them, were things that we looked at as very trivial. So it's very important that you understand the market very, very well, especially localization. Partnerships are key. Apart from having a local partner. Yes?
So when we're talking about localization,
Mm-hmm.
is it like, if even there is a solution which is like more kind of global,
Mm-hmm.
are they open to like explore those? Like what's the mindset of people? Like if they say, okay, that is a solution like accepted in like 10 different places, and this could be slightly advanced, like which you are, so how much they are open for to explore that new technology?
When it comes to acceptance of new technology, I think Africa is a very, very good market for that. If you look at cryptocurrency, for example, there's a massive adoption of it, that it actually had a serious impact on the banking system, for example, in Nigeria. Remittances to Nigeria was roughly about $50 billion a year from international families and diaspora. And because the banking fees were really high, fintechs came in, offered a crypto solution. Remittances were done 100% through banks. Because of the introduction of crypto, that dropped from 100% to actually 95%. I mean, it dropped to 5%. And everything went through crypto. I still don't know how crypto works, but you speak to people and they're like, oh, send it through crypto. I was like, okay. So I hope that answers your question.
So it's more about consumer behavior, not about like they are not ready to explore technology.
Yes, it's consumer behavior. It's quite interesting. But again, the way they consume it is different from, let's say, this particular market, right? Okay, so I was talking about partnerships. The other important thing is partnerships. I'll tell you something very interesting. We had the last Africa, Estonia event that I met you guys. Yes, business event. We actually met a company there, and we're signing a partnership with them for that company to represent us in Kenya. Now, this is a market that we didn't even imagine we'll go to, but coincidentally, the company met us at the event, talked to us and said, oh, we think your product will work in the market. They did the research, they are going to get the people on ground, and they are going to implement the project. So, Daniel, Sisi, thank you for that, and hopefully that's revenue for us. So, it's very important that if you are looking at expanding into other markets in Africa, look at partnerships. And even the local market, that's also a soft landing for you if you want to start and test the waters. If you don't want to go on ground initially, you can find partners that you can work with and push them through. The other things that you need to look at, I'll just quickly mention them. I think, again, is to unthink the way you think, you know, when it comes to Africa. It's completely different, and you have to think of the knowledge that you have in terms of markets, empty it from a glass cup, and start again. That way it helps you to see the market from a very, very broad perspective. The second thing is that you need to test everything. You know, what works here may not work there, and what works there may work here. You know, you don't know what will work, but you have to test. Trust is a major, major issue in the market, and you need to look for ways of building trust. You have to be extremely patient. You know, so things don't happen overnight. It takes time. So normally you see a cycle here, maybe taking you, if you're a B2B business, maybe like 3 months to close a deal. In Africa, it may take you 6 or 9. Or it may even take you 1 week. You don't know. And like you said earlier, I liked what you said, that consumers may like something and all of a sudden they just switch. The power of switching is really high. And I'll give you an example. This is of the market, OP. How many of you know the Opera browser? You know the Opera browser? Yes, it's a Norwegian company, and they created this browser. The Chinese invested in it, and Opera was extremely popular in Africa. So they decided to move into the African market to push more of the Opera browser, especially on the very affordable smartphones. They started different services under Opera. Coincidentally or surprisingly, most of them did not work. But what worked for them was they decided to go into fintech in Nigeria, OPay. Today, I was in Nigeria 2 months ago. OPay is now, all of a sudden, started in 2018, all of a sudden, they've gone from 0 to controlling more than 30% of the mobile money market. Just like what you hear of M-Pesa, they were able to find a loophole, or rather than a loophole, I would say a gap in the market, and they focused on that. So every person in Nigeria now, if you want to do transactions with them, they say, okay, please send it via OP, because that's one of the systems that works best. You know, so, and the reason OPay had this astronomical growth also was because the Nigerian government all of a sudden woke up one morning and said, okay, everything must be digital. And we have 100 days to redesign our currency. We had about, let's say, 3 trillion of our currency in circulation in cash. The government redesigned the currency and only gave out 300 billion in a market where 90% of transactions are done in cash. So the entire banking system was stretched, and the only one that was working well was OP. They've crossed 30 million users, and they process over, I think, $9 billion a month in transactions. And you can see, I've just, this is a very recent article of how they are driving cashless in that market. Everyone knows Bolt. Definitely I had to use Bolt. And you all know the Bolt story of how they started in Africa. It was either they flew down there, like someone has said, go on ground, or they find an alternative. They were able to, via Skype, employ people, right? And said, okay, let's test this market. And now they've crossed 1 million drivers. They're in, I think, how many countries? 5 countries in Africa. Now imagine Bolt being such a big company, and they're only in 5 countries in the 54 or 55 countries in Africa. That tells you, how growth has been. And they started when? In Africa in 2016. So these are just examples of, what has happened in the market. It requires, 2016 is how many years ago? Almost 10 years now? It was about 8 years ago, right? They started, and they're at this point. But guess what? They've crossed 1 million drivers in that market. So it's very important that these key things that sound like a broken record, because we've been repeating, are actual facts of how business is done in Africa. I'll be happy to take questions, and we should start exploring. Thank you. So, any questions?
First of all, thank you very much for your brilliant presentation. I was very impressed. You mentioned culture, and you had a lot of stuff about that, because it is a bit ignored sometimes when we talk about technical, stuff and everything like that. And just before I ask my question, it is proving that, great minds are thinking alike, because I also paid attention in those presentations which were before about this, customer switching and withdrawing, etc. My question will be, because I'm teaching intercultural communication business behavior, particularly training the people, and have a lot of African students, whether it's more, I would say, rational approach if we concentrate on tribal cultures rather than countries, because as you know, they are just made like that, the borders after colonial rule, particularly British, and in your respective country as well, Hausa, you mentioned, Yoruba, and Uyghur, and even conflicts among them, and a lot of cooperation actually between tribes rather than inside. And then you mentioned as well, so my question is, how you, or maybe your comments, the approach like that, to concentrate on diaspora, for example, even in Britain, it's a big community of very influential people who are having still connections back in Nigeria, Kenya, whatever community you take, and then take it tribally, rather than talking about countries, because as you know, sometimes it is not working this way at all, and even other way around. As we talk about Nigeria, if it's, community of Hausa, and then you do something in the community of, let's say, Yoruba, it might be even, no, for the people from the opposite community. Thank you.
Okay. So that's a very, thank you. That's a very tough question, or question to answer, because it's more complicated than that. So if you look at from tribal, in Nigeria we have 250. So where do you start from? And I mean, 200 and more than 400 languages or something like that. I can remember I was building a factory, and where my factory was located, I had in between my factory, I had 3 villages, and those 3 villages spoke 3 different languages. and we had to deal with workers from all of them, you know. So it was tough. However, there were common languages that were spoken, which was at that region, Hausa was a common language, and English. So, and again, the other thing is that people have intermarried. So my mom is from one part of the country, and my dad is another part of the country. So what do you call us? You know, so it's very difficult to, in my own personal opinion, it's very difficult to deal with people at that level. But rather, it's to each environment you get to, you have to deal with that situation depending on the nuances of that environment. That's what I'll say. Yes.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry. Can you hear me? Yeah. So due to time pressure, no more questions now, but we have this lunch. I am holding the microphone. I wanted to say that after we finish these brief presentations, we have this networking lunch and opportunity, and you're all free to come and also talk to Ibrahim directly and ask the questions as well. So I'm running over my ambassador's word. Thank you, Ibrahim. It's now Liina Link from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who talks about development cooperation, and particularly from the angle how Estonian companies, Estonian startups can also benefit from the programs.
Okay, thank you. Hello from my side as well. So I will cover our engagement with Africa from a little bit different angle, and I will explain about development cooperation, why we do it, how we do it, where we do it, and what we do, and I hopefully create some ideas for you how you can be engaged in those activities. So just a very short introduction of what development cooperation is. So we are fighting with poverty. We try to create societies where economies are flourishing, and then the people are not suffering from lack of employment and lack of food and all the related global security contribution to global security and stability in the process. So we are working hand in hand with the Estonian Center for International Development, our new implementation agency set up 2 years ago. So from the ministry side, we're setting policies, strategies, and they are taking care of the implementation. So they are engaging with our partners from private sector, from non-governmental organizations, from also public sector, finding right experts, finding right technology that can be contributed to our projects. Currently we are working on next year's budget, and we are setting up objectives for SDEV for the next year very soon. And after that they are starting to plan their concrete activities, and you can check their webpage for calls of proposals and also procurement notices for the programs. And once our objectives for the next year and budget are set, we are also planning to organize a seminar together with SDEV to discuss in more detail what we're doing in Africa, what are our priorities, and how also private companies can be engaged. So our bilateral donor contribution to Africa is not very large. This year it was 800,000 euros, but we are increasingly working with other donors so that Estonian valuable expertise can be expanded and we can be part of processes that provide more sustainable change in the societies. And this year we are celebrating 25 years of being a donor country. Before that we were donor recipient, early 90s. So in Africa we've been active for about 10 years, but like in more systematic way since our Africa strategy was launched in 2020. So we believe that As we are a very small donor country, we have to choose where we are active in which areas. So we believe that Estonia has 3 very useful stories, journeys to share with other countries, all related to our own transformation of our society. So first and foremost, of course, e-governance. Estonia has the best digital government in the world, for Estonians at least. So we are we are ready to share our experience in that, but also the whole transformation of the government, of the public sector, establishing rule of law, democratic engagement of society, everything important also to so that the economies of the countries can flourish, because it's very difficult to attract investment in a country where rule of law doesn't work, and so this whole of society engagement also in the government. The second valuable story is education. Our education system also came from Soviet times. We had to totally transform it, so this is also a useful story to tell, and a part of that is also digital education, item management systems, digital education, digital skills of at all levels of society, from grassroots level to teachers, to IT sector experts, to public officials who decide about digital transformation processes. And the third story of Estonia is, of course, our story of our unicorns, our startup ecosystem, the economic setting of the coming from regulations, but also the whole of society thinking about innovation, how to, and also a very important story is the public-private partnership in building the society. Very shortly about important principles. So equal partnership is our main principle. We work with countries who want to work with us, and obviously there are more than those 4 that have been also mentioned by Daniel before, but we have to focus our efforts because our Team Africa is very small, so there are more countries that want to work with Estonia, and there are more countries that we want to work with, but we have started with those 4. Gender equality, we pay a lot of attention that all our programs address women and girls, and that empowerment of them, their education and involvement. And also, when we talk about digital, then we take care of that digital transformation doesn't increase divides in the society, whether it's racial, sex-based, urban, rural divides, and so on. So we want to make sure that no one is left behind. How we do it? I think there are main 2 ways of doing the development cooperation projects. First is providing expertise, so sending our experts to our partner countries, also hosting a lot of visits to Estonia, doing lots of sorts of assessments, helping countries to also build the strength and knowledge of their public sector. And the other way is technology transfer, which may become important or relevant for you. Of course, technology transfer means that we take our good solutions to our partner countries, we adjust them there, and we also empower the local communities, local private companies and governments to take these forward, so that those solutions are sustainable for those partner countries. And the focus countries in Africa are mentioned here again. Kenya, Uganda in the east, Africa, and Namibia, Botswana in the south. But as we are working also with other donors, especially at the moment with EU, then our activities cover a lot of other countries, and we also engage more and more in regional activities. So this is a very busy slide, but I tried to show some of the examples how we have worked together with private sector, and also currently the first one is how we support startup ecosystem, Latitude 59 being one of the good examples this year. So these are all the projects that are also contributing and creating like portfolio references for our SDEV colleagues to be engaged in larger projects with EU and other large donors, so that those activities could be expanded. And some other examples I try to put here where we really are involved in technology transfer in obviously a lot of activities in e-governance area. A lot of our ICT cluster companies are also working without Estonian funding, but using the funding of other large donors already. So a lot of work going on in that area, and just some examples of education, e-solutions, and some solutions relating to forestry, agriculture, and climate change. There are obviously a lot of more examples, but maybe these create ideas what kind of solutions we have provided to our partner countries and where we can build on next projects. So why should private sector entity be engaged in development cooperation? So one of the key stories that we tell in all our partner countries, not just in Africa, but also in Eastern Partnership region, is the PPP model that Estonia, that has helped Estonia achieve the state of development that we have achieved, because the transformation of our public sector has not happened without tight involvement of private sector or non-governmental organizations and people. The private companies who have worked with us, they find it a very useful way. Development cooperation funding is meant to be for activities that are not for profit, but those activities help those companies to get experience in the partner countries, to get references for further engagement, and get networks and contacts, and obviously increasingly private sector entities are involved or taking more responsibility also in wider perspective, in addition to profit making, but to contribute to sustainable development goals, because when we help to work in the partner countries together, then it means that those partner countries develop quicker. Our only strategy for development cooperation is exit strategy, so we want to get out as soon as possible, and with the help of private sector, it will happen quicker. So that was a short intervention from my side.
Thank you, Liina. And again, if you have any more concrete questions to Liina, please feel free to approach her. So I commit that she can't walk away from the lunch. She will be there now. And now we are going to have words from in Estonian Keskkonnainvesteeringute Keskus, but in English Estonian Environmental Investment Center, and Reili Jakobi. Jaa, töötavad? Ma panen selle esitluse. Tere muidugi päevda.
Hi, from my side. Yeah, it's right. Yeah.
No.
Kas ma pean ise vahetama neid slaide või?
Sa saad siit või siit? Sellega, kuidas sul parem on?
Ma proovin siis siit. On selles.
Okei. Oota, nüüd vist on full screen.
Ja siit liigub edasi.
Ei, sina teed kõik õigesti? Nii.
Pane eelmine slaid.
Eelmine.
Okay, I try. So, good day for everybody. My name is Reili Jakobi, and I'm from Environmental Investment Center. And I give a short overview about climate development cooperation scheme in Estonia. and we have also very many focus countries from Africa in this scheme. And the Environmental Investment Center is implementation organization for this scheme. So, as you all know, the climate is changing faster than ever before, and we have more heat and energy in our atmosphere and in oceans, and so we see more extreme weather events and biodiversity degradation. And we also know that least developed countries and small island countries getting hit the hardest, and because of their geographical location and the lower incomes, which are linked sectors of economy, which are sectors of economy affected by increasingly volatile climate, like agriculture, fisheries, forestry. So we have to, according to Paris Agreement, we have to support the least developed countries to cope with climate change. And the main objective of the grant is to contribute climate change mitigation and adaptation. And according to this global climate policy, we have obligation to support them with €1 million per year. Here is a list of focus countries. As you see, there are many African countries as well. I underlined them. And the aim to support, we have the aim to support activities that help developing countries to mitigate and adapt to climate change. And all these projects must lead to a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions or increased resilience of climate change. And what is very important in this requirement is that support is provided for transferring solutions, knowledge, products which are developed in Estonia or abroad, but then they have to be received and added value in Estonia. And all these solutions must be concrete, and what is important, they have to be based on the needs of destination country. A little bit about financing information also. The applicants can be all legal persons who are registered in Estonia, or government or local government organizations. And for this year, the call of application is closed, but the next will be on the beginning of next year. The budget for 1 year is a little bit less than €1 million, and there is also the minimum rates, and we have e-application platform for yes, also the website is there. And what is very important fact is that the applicant must be a partner in the target country. that you need a partner from Africa to apply for this scheme. And short overview about different projects. We have had very different projects from very different fields. Here is one agricultural project from Azerbaijan. This is an ongoing project. And quite many projects in Kenya. This is air quality improving project. Then also in Kenya, electricity system balancing project. Then this project was in Grenada, and it was about monitoring and purifying water. Then also in Kenya, about carbon negative construction. Then there was NGO Mondo project about they prepared solar-powered mobile learning centers. Also one agricultural project. And this Costa Rica project was a timber project about wood measurement technology. Yeah, and here are our project coordinators' contacts and our website where you can find more information about this grant scheme. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. And the same stands. If you have any more specific questions, please feel free to approach Hareli as well. So we are now going to have this networking lunch, which is provided by South African Catering. They are located in Balti, if you want to taste these things again. Yes, thank you all for coming, and yeah, reach out in case of any questions.